you for your time again, man. It's great to have you back on.
You're like so ready for war.
Dude, look at this moody guy.
Because at this point, like Cobra Kai take them down pretty easily. And
Yeah,
then, like,
yeah.
the Iron Dragons come in, like, yeah, look at us, like, we're the top dogs. It's gonna rattle Kwon, of course, with the actual stuff. But like in this moment, how do you honestly feel like Yoon is feeling? Like, you know, like you said, at this point, like he's lost his like the golden badge for being top student. In a sense, he's more of a team player than Kwon. So like, even though Kwon was like sort of, you know, working with you to take down Axel, it didn't quite work out. Do you think that there's a sense of he would have done better leading, or in your head, like how do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, I totally get you. I think funnily enough, I think Yoon is in a pretty similar spot to Miguel, if you want to make that parallel.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
like, you know, Miguel doesn't wear the captain's headband, but he's trying to lead the team and bring them to victory on his own terms, even without that headband. And for Yoon, he may have lost his badge, he may have lost his captain spot, but in the same way, like he's like, you know, I'm not just going to sit back. Like I'm also like a member of this team, one of the top students. And so when I'm coming in here to fight, like I'm in here to win. But at the same time, I think that Yoon does have a little chip of it on his shoulder. Like he kind of needs to prove himself here on the mat to like win his spot back. So yeah. And I know we're talking after the season's released, right? So you see like on that crazy map, the crazy like 3v3 fight or 3v1 fight where like Hawk and Dimitri and Kenny are all like ganging up on Yoon and doing the crazy like tag team thing, which is like phenomenal strategy. But like Yoon is staying in there for so long because he has something to prove. Like he wants to be like, I'm just as good as Kwon. I will go in and make sure to beat all of these guys. I don't have to tag out. And it's only when he realizes too late, he's like, oh crap, I really need to tag out. I'm getting winded, that they get that point on him, you know? So yeah, that's where his headspace is for this fight. It's kind of where he's at for a lot of the Sekai Taikai.
Right. And I like that specific fight you just mentioned now about the tag team. Dude, I was like,
pretty good.
That was such a well choreographed.
Stunt kind of killed it, man. Stunt kind of killed it.
They absolutely did. But again, man, I feel so bad of him because like there's like a moment, and I'm sure you remembered the moment where like Yoon sort of like the camera sort of, you know, like focuses on his like reaction where, you know, you're like panting out, you're like freaking doing everything, throwing kicks, punches, the movement, and like you look so drained, and like Kenny's like, we got him. Like, but man, they should be doing this to Kwon. He's the menace, not you.
No, I love it. For me, I'm like, hey man, I was in a 3v1 and I put up a fight, and that section's like a long section of that Miyagi-Do fight. I'm like, dude, Yoon in my books, like he has a W for that. Like he stayed in the ring
for sure.
like for that long. Yeah. I'm like, that's freaking awesome. But I mean, here's what I'll say is like I think Yoon, like I just have the unfortunate time of having my time to shine, and whenever Miyagi-Do's there, it's like, well, when Miyagi-Do's there, when Iron Dragons is there, it's like there's got to be a bigger fish. So yeah, but I don't know. For me, I'm like, there's a part of me that's real like, hey, Yoon, I'm proud of you. If I was his coach on the side, I'm like, hey man, I'm proud of you. You stayed in the ring, you fought hard, right? Just like keep level-headed, that kind of thing. But man, that was such a fun fight. You should have seen like there's a whiteboard. I don't know if you've heard about like the legendary like Stunt whiteboard, but there's a whiteboard in Cobra Kai that Don Lee uses, that Tony Chung uses, that Ken Bearfield uses, and they list out all of the beats for all of our fights. That thing was like, like it was so long, that entire episode. It was crazy. So it's pretty legendary. That was the day when everyone was like, "Whoo, okay, we're buckling in. There's gonna be a long couple of days of shooting, and we're gonna get these badass fights out." And I can't believe they turned out as well as they did. It's like the props to the stunt team and to the camera team, to Abe and everybody who did everything. And obviously to, Brandon, and to Jacob, to Peyton, to Dimitri, Johnny, right? To Dallas, to all the people who did the fights, because that thing was a monster and we killed it.
Well, you all did for sure. Brought your A game, man. Like it was, I think Don and Ken were telling me like a few months ago, like with this season, as there's like more like martial artists involved in this season, and like you guys are coming in with there's people with more experience in martial arts coming into the show at this point. There was like a more of a competitive spirit, and I feel like you could feel that on screen. Like you guys all really pushed each other, and I'm sure like Don and Ken were really like motivating you guys to like do try different things maybe, or I heard that with Tanner and Brandon, they really wanted to try different things or do their absolute best. But no, you guys all did. So yeah, congrats on that. I mean, fans are gonna
Oh,
be
thank you,
so
man.
stoked to see it, man. Yeah,
I mean,
and
it's so funny that you say that because, like, literally during even part 1, during episode 3, Tanner came and visited our set to be like,
oh
who's
yeah,
these new guys? I heard
I
there's
heard
these
this.
Korean guys who are good martial artists." And so he was such a nice guy on set. But
Yeah,
I remember he was kind of setting that up, and he was kind of like sussing me and Brandon out. And then when we
yeah.
got to the day when we started shooting 606, like we
Mm.
all came to the stunt dojo, and like Don and Ken are geniuses because they were like, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna create a competition. So there was a kicking competition that they did between Jacob, Tanner, and
Yeah,
Brandon,
I think
and they
there's a
like
video
set
of it.
up the like dojo rivalry. Yeah. There is. I think Peyton was the one who posted
Yeah,
it. There's
yeah,
like
yeah.
that set up like the dojo rivalry from the beginning, where everyone was like,
Oh,
yes, there was this like amazing camaraderie that was happening where we're all in this together. We're building this world to show this like all the stunts, right? But it was also like a little bit of like, hey, like we're gonna one up each other. We're gonna make this thing like explode on the screen, and
mm.
they killed it for doing that.
Oh my god, yeah, for sure. Like I gotta say, there is a W I do remember for Yoon and with Tori, which was the platform fight
Yeah.
in episode 7, which that must have been so fun to do. Like, when do you get the chance to fight on a platform and have mats under you? Like, that's such a unique
Yeah, man.
experience. Like, run me through what that was like for you and working with Peyton on that, because that was a really cool fight, and the way that
Oh
you
my gosh,
guys
yeah.
won that round as well, that was really cool.
It was so fun. I mean, all of the fights in the second part, we filmed episode 6 and 7, which is the huge mat fight, the brawl between Miyagi-Do and Cobra Kai, where Cobra Kai wins, and then the Iron Dragons, and the 607 platform fight in a week. So we did like all of those fights in like
That's a
a
lot.
tiny span of time, and everyone did an amazing job.
Mm.
So for me and Peyton, it was really cool because I think there's some moments set up early on in episode 6 where it's kind of like, who's this girl? Like, who is this American like girl who's coming in being a part of our team? Like, why is she
Yeah.
here? There's a little bit of that energy from the team, from Yoon, from Kwon. But when she starts proving herself on the mat, on both that mat fight with Miyagi-Do Cobra Kai, and then also especially when we get to do it in that platform fight, that was really exciting for me because it was both in the story and in real life. Like in the story, it was like Yoon and Kwon and Cobra Kai being like, you know what? Like she's the real deal. She belongs
Mm.
here, and kind of accepting her into the team. And then in real life, outside of the story, it was kind of like, oh, like Daniel, Brandon, all of these guys who are new to the show, like Peyton and the rest of the Miyagi-Dos are like, welcome to the show, welcome to the team. Like you guys are part of this fam as well. So that was a great like kind of story mimicking life.
Right. I really like that little moment that you have with Tori as well, because like I think like Tori knocks out that girl's tooth, and like Yoon picks up the
Yeah.
tooth, and he's like you raise her hand. Like, I really like that chemistry, and like I think like it's cool to see like Yoon having like respect for like a new student, and that's probably the moment he's like, yeah, I'm so glad we have this girl on our team, because like you said, you're a bit unsure at first. Like, you guys all are coming into this dojo, and then you got this sort of like outsider in a sense. So it's like
Mhm,
maybe it's
mhm.
sort of like how like Tanner felt when he saw you guys. Like, who are these like martial artists I got to see? And then like as soon as he sees you guys, like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, I have massive respect to these guys. But yeah,
Exactly,
um,
exactly.
but I think like the fight in episode 6 as well, we have to touch on that. I mean, that was such a cool way of seeing the characters work together, because in the show we've seen the kids fight like in teams, but not like in a tournament setting, right? It's always like one on
Mhm,
one.
mhm,
This was
mhm.
so cool to see that, and just to see how far they've come. But yeah, there's a moment where like Hawk's like sort of like he's about to get like a really important point, and then like Yoon just basically like ruins his moment. But like
It
Yoon
was
is such a
crazy.
badass like spinning hook kick, and I'm like, damn, like he took him out. Like it was so cool. But like yeah, because you
Thank
do
you,
that so
man.
easily, right? And like that must have been fun though, having that moment. Because also like the Miyagi-Dos, they don't know like how well you guys are as like fighters. So for them it's like Hawk's
Yeah.
like, oh, I've got Fury of the Hawk. You're like, no, you haven't seen Fury of the Yoon yet, right?
That's right. That's right. I'm like, welcome to Barcelona, dude. It's like a whole
Yeah.
different world, buddy.
Because like
No, that moment was so cool because like I love Jacob. He's like one of the
yeah.
most charismatic performers, and also like the dude is so crazy talented. Like he can pick up a fight in like 30 minutes. It's amazing. Like I remember me, Brandon, and others being like looking at him, like learning fights, and we're like, dude, like how does he do it? Like it takes us a week, and he's like, got it after an hour. You're like, that's crazy.
Wow.
But I remember it was so awesome because I came in and I wasn't quite sure where Yoon was going to kind of fit into the story or how important he would be after part one. And I remember, I believe it was Josh, Josh Shield who came up to me. It was John, Josh, and Hayden. They all kind of came up to me at different points, and they were talking to me, and they said, "Hey, man, like we thought of a cool thing for part two. We want Yoon to be like a rival to Hawk, so you guys have
Oh,
some kind of
I
friction."
really was like hoping to
I
see
was
this,
like,
and
that's so cool. And I was like,
yeah.
no way, there's no shot that they're giving me that opportunity. So, when we have the aquarium of me being like, oh, what? You're the best one on your
You're
team.
the yeah.
And then
I
him like
love
kind
that
of
line.
firing back. And then we get to the mat fight, we get the hook kick. Like you just watch Yoon and Hawk's rivalry through the thing. It's awesome. Like Mr. Structured, Mr. Perfect versus like the American like Mohawk badass. Like it's such a cool, fun dynamic between the two of us.
Yeah, like that. I think I was really hoping to see that, especially like Kwon was very much to like Robbie, and I thought like with Hawk as
Mhm.
well. But like I felt like Yoon and Hawk had this synergy. I feel like they would, and obviously you guys have that moment um when like you guys meet the Miyagi-Dos the first time in the hotel. And then
Mhm.
and then the high kick challenge, which we'll have to get onto, when Yoon
Oh
says,
yeah.
"Yeah, are you the best your dojo has to offer?" Like you could see Hawk is like, technically no, yeah, but
He's like,
dude,
step
what?
up. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
he's like trying to be so stoic about it. Like, nah, this guy didn't hurt my feelings. Like, I'm all good. But no, that high kick
Yeah.
challenge, man. Like, wow, that must have been fun, really fun to film. Like, just such a
Yeah.
classic moment you get in Cobra Kai with like rivalries and stuff. But like, yeah, run me through what you remember of the day and just generally filming that.
Dude, that was so cool because we were so the Sekai Taikai space, we were there for such long stretches of like the entire days that we were in Atlanta.
Mm.
But we actually got to go to the aquarium for that section. It was so cool. We blocked off like a couple days, and I remember we were going in for the 2 days of the high kick competition, whatever, competitors in like a casual gear. The Cobra Kai's, that was the first time we got to like really wear those sick jackets
Dude, those
outside. It was
jackets are too good.
so good, Frank.
I need one, Frank.
Magnifique, dude. I do too, man. I
Yeah.
do too. I wasn't able to get one, and so I'm trying to find someone who would like be willing to get me a jacket. I'm begging, I'm pleading because those jackets are amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, but we went to the aquarium those days, and like we had like the whole dolphin board, right, and the fun
Mm.
dynamics of us hanging out. And I think, oh man, there was the first at least couple days of us hanging out with Miyagi-Do. I think we had the one day in the lobby, but that was the first day I think that we were just kind of like talking a little bit amongst ourselves.
Mm.
So, and we were still kind of figuring out like, oh, we're the Cobra Kai clique and like they're the Miyagi-Do clique. Like, can we talk to them? There's all that
Yeah.
all kind of stuff.
That hiking challenge was definitely fun. I think it would have been interesting if Hawk and Yoon were involved though. Like if they took turns. Because obviously it was just between like
Oh, interesting.
Kwon and Robbie. But no, was there a version of that where you were
Mhm.
included, like you and Hawk, to sort of show that rivalry a little bit more, as you said?
Uh, No, not in the script. I think, the moment was us, like, kind of facing off in the
Just
dialogue, being
that.
like, "You like, you're the best your dojo has to offer." I think they have, like, that kind of, like it's like a B plot or like a, sub arc, you might say, right? A little thing underneath.
Mm,
But no, it was always supposed to be, like I think a lot of the highlight, at least in the early parts of the Sekai Taikai, is, like, who are each captains of each team, and specifically the teams that we care about, right? Which is Miyagi-Do and then Cobra Kai, and so that's why
mm,
like Kwon and Robbie are the ones who fight for their team. They're the captains.
mm.
But then it sets up perfectly like Miguel's frustration with Robbie later, and then the whole how Robbie kind of rises up, and that's a lot of that kind of arc. And so yeah, Tanner had like so much stuff this part, and he like did such an amazing job in all of it. He had so much like character arc, like just story to like carry on his shoulders on top of all the insane fights that he had to do, and it was amazing. It's some of like the high points of like this Sekai Taikai arc.
Oh, 100%, man. Like, I mean, the martial arts in itself told its own story, and then the arc, like, wow, that
Mm.
moment when Cobra Kai Miyagi-Do face to, like it's like now or never, like who goes through, and just seeing that moment. I think it's in episode 9, and obviously, like it was a little bit of a shock to see Cobra Kai get knocked out, but it's also like such a what a turning point in the story because, like, I think people might not have expected it at first. But that's again like the creators and the writers do such a
Yeah.
great job in
Hey, dude.
making that.
Yeah, thank God for performance enhancing drugs, like that's what kept us in.
Oh
Thank
yeah,
God for performance enhancing
for
drugs.
sure. That dojo that they had to do it, didn't they? But like
Oof.
that was an interesting. That was interesting because like that's happened in real life,
Don't take
and
that out of context, by the way. Don't take that out of context.
yeah,
They got eliminated for using it. We're glad that, we're good. We're good.
yeah,
We're not
yeah. You
doping.
guys
Cobra Kai's
deserve
not
to be
doping.
there. No, the thing is, I think like it does make you think though, like in the real world, in like even we've seen this in Olympic level and stuff like that with sports, like it does
Yeah.
happen. So like there was a sense of realism to that in a way. Like when you were in the world tournament, like because I don't know, have you ever like been involved in like proper tournaments, maybe similar scale to like a world
Yeah,
tournament
yeah.
from your past? Would you say that the feeling and the way they went about the Sakai Takai sort of represented how like your experiences in like a world tournament? Obviously, like there's different things going on, and Cobra Kai's like its own story, it's crazy, but like in the
Yeah.
tournament concept.
Yeah, so it's funny because for me, I actually talked to Raina and Brandon about this because all of us had done like taekwondo at a national level at some point. I kind of
Mm,
stopped a little earlier. Raina and Brandon went on to become national champions.
mm,
But as we were talking about it, and we are like, hey, like look at the mat space. This is kind of crazy. Like, do you remember this? I think one of the big things that we felt was like really cool about the Sekai Taikai was just like it was able to both like keep the story propelling forward while maintaining like the level of realism of like what a tournament mat like exhibition fights might feel like. Now, if you
mm.
went to like a taekwondo tournament outside, there'd probably be like a lot more individual mats for like a preliminary section. Like you remember in Karate Kid 2,
Right.
not Karate Kid 2, for the Jaden Smith Karate Kid, they have all those mats that they were
Oh yeah,
fighting
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Like that's really similar to like to a tournament kind of space. But there's exhibition matches that like Raina's been a part of. She's like, this actually feels like pretty like close to that, where they have like a central mat, and then a lot of people are invited to like watch these like finalists come in and fight. So yeah, they did a great job of both heightening it, making it look visually amazing, and preserving that realism. And so yeah, I think the writers and the set designers and everybody did an incredible job bringing that to life.
It looked great. I think it's also cool just to see the fact it's just senseis and the competitors there and officials. Like there's no crowds,
Yeah.
so it's like it really like
Yeah, or
gives you that.
former competitors in the stands, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they're watching that as well, and like you do feel that like blood sport vibe to it. Like it's so
Yeah.
similar to that, which I absolutely love. Um, so with Yoon in part two, like you can see his strengths. He works well with the team, and
Mhm.
obviously Kwon and Tori being like the captains, they're the leaders. They have to lead the team. They have to be at the forefront. But I do feel like Yoon's capabilities of being a team leader would have probably benefited the team more overall, because Kwon's kind of he does his thing. He's like, he's the top dog, of course, but there's like I asked Brandon this, like what he thought the weaknesses were to Kwon. I want to ask you the same thing, but with Yoon. What would you say is Yoon's weaknesses or his weakness?
That's a really good question. I think what Yoon's weakness is one is the fact that he's coming in with a chip on his shoulder, so he has something to prove. Makes him a little bit like more reckless. I think he's taking chances that he wouldn't normally if he was like had his head on completely straight. So I think that's him, because Yoon is a badass. He's like very very like well. I mean, forgive my Miyagi-Do sayings, but balanced fighter. I think that's one of his biggest strengths, is that he's kind of like a really technical fighter, knows the game, knows like the rules, that kind of thing. But because he's kind of like a generalist, and he's actually probably best serving as like helping like, bring the team together, make sure everyone's like hyped up together, right? As opposed to being like the shining star who's like kind of the rogue, like Kwon, right? Or Peyton, who's like our wild card, who we don't know very well, but who's an amazing fighter, right? I think while she has her leadership, it's been so cool to see if Tori had more time in Cobra Kai to like coalesce and gel with the team, because she could have led, I think, super super efficiently, because you see the ways that she's like strategy forming in like 606, like that's kind of like her strength and what she's going to. And it would have been cool to see if Yoon had ended up becoming captain, how he'd be able to partner with her like kind of leadership. The two of them I think would have made great like coaches, leaders, captains. But I think, it's undeniable that Kwon, like, he has the sauce, he has the aura, he's got that fighting strength, kind of like stand above the rest, but he just doesn't play well with others,
I think it's interesting you say that about Tori as well, because like if she had come to Korea with Kreese, and obviously if that was a thing, like how that would have affected the chemistry with Kwon and Yoon with Tori going into tournament might have reinforced something, like you said. Like I think that definitely would have played a bigger part in them in part 2, which definitely is like
a crazy alternate timeline for sure.
Yeah,
I would love to see that version.
Right. And yeah, like I think it's obviously Yoon isn't a captain, but I would love to know, like you said, he's a team player. He's trying to help his dojo win. That's the goal. If he was a captain and he was fighting in the individual contest, what's a matchup you would have loved to see for Yoon, or for you personally, just for the story?
Oh man. Oh gosh, that's a great question. I mean, I would have, breaking all rules of story. I don't think Yoon has a Robbie fight. I would have loved to have had a Robbie fight. That would have
Oh,
been so
yes.
fun. Because
Yeah.
Tanner's such a good fighter, great scene partner, great like stage combat partner, or like, film combat partner. Like he's so on it. So I would have loved to have like we have a little beat. We have a couple. Actually, we do have a couple beats in the brawl when it hits the fan. But I would have loved to have like a one-on-one like mat fight with rules, because I think that the way that Robbie fights and Yoon fights is actually pretty similar. It's kind of like a lot of technicals, little flashy like
that's
high
a good
kicks, pretty structured. It's pretty athletic. Whereas like Brandon's like spinning and tricking and doing all that stuff, right? And that kind of throws Robbie off his game. I think Yoon and Robbie would be like two guys with the same like kind of tool sets, who has the sharper tools. And that would have been a really cool fight, I think, for me to see. And also because I love Tanner. I would have loved to work with him more.
Oh, that would have been I would have loved to see that matchup for sure. That would have been really cool. In episode 10 now, the Dojo Brawl, I was like
baby.
in the edge of my
Dojo Brawl of Dojo Brawls.
Yes, 100%. Like in season 5, I feel like that was like an early taste of what could happen if we see like a Dojo Brawl, but in the tournament setting, bro. Can you imagine that happening in real life? Like imagine a tournament one of the tournaments you were in, Daniel, that happened. Like that's scary, right? Crazy, freaking crazy.
That tournament would never happen again. That'd be wild. Like
100%.
people jump up. The guy from the team who got disqualified comes up and punches the ref, and then someone dies. That'd be
Oh
insanity.
my
It's
god,
no
dude. Yeah.
wonder it's like such a huge deal. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be insane. You know, I would really hope I'm never part of one of those. I would love to
Nah,
just
no,
live
no,
my
no.
life in peace. That'd be cool. I'm down. I just want to hang out. I just want to vibe. I'm a chill dude.
Yeah, just
But
Yoon just walks away like, nah, I'm good. I've seen this before. Like, might leave.
yeah, that's right. That's right. If it was Daniel Kim instead of Yoon, like I would have seen the brawl breakout. I'm like, you know what? I'm good.
Nah,
I'll head
I'm
out.
a head out. Yeah, yeah, that's the best thing
But
to do, man.
no, man, that fight is so sick. The brawl, it's like crazy because you go from, you know, like the amazing, right, brawls that we think of at the end
Yeah.
of Cobra Kai seasons, right? The, you know, the Miguel Robbie school fight, like you have like, you know, the season 5 like crazy brawl at Silver's
my God,
place,
that
right?
brawl.
You know, and culminates with Daniel and Silver. So good. But this is like it ups the ante so hard. You have dojos from all different countries who hate each other now, who are at each other's throats. And as soon as they have like a single excuse, everybody's fighting everybody. It's yeah, it's
insane.
World War Karate. It's crazy.
World War Karate. I
love
love
it.
that.
It's so fun.
It's insane, man. And like, you know, we get there's all the tension, of course, before going into those semis. I mean, obviously with Cobra Kai coming back, like Miyagi-Do's, like Devin's like, oh, but that leaves Cobra Kai, of course. And then like you guys come back in, so you know that initial disappointment now just turns into this surge of energy for you guys. And you know, I mean, obviously Kwon knocks out Diego like so crazy. That kick that Brandon does, like he says, like a trademark.
Oh my god, Brandon! Oh my
so
god,
insane, right?
Yeah. I think
And then
that's
going
his.
into
Oh man, 720.
yeah,
I think it's a 720. I'm trying to remember. Yeah,
540, 720. Oh my god, dude! Like I'm just trying to imagine if I
might be
saw that in
cheat
a real
1080 or
one.
yeah.
It could be, yeah. Actually, it
Dude,
could be. Oh,
here's the crazy thing about Brandon. He didn't do that once. He did that take like 10 times and killed it every single time. Like I remember, you know, Brandon, you know, God, that guy's on another level, you know, because he's talking to stunt guys. You know, he himself like did stunts for so long, and he's talking to Don and Ken. He's like, "Hey guys, do you guys want to do something that's never been done on film before?" And they're like,
absolutely love
"Sure."
it.
And he casually busts it out during the brawl. Like, yeah, he does that amazing kick on Diego, but then he also did one on the kick that he does towards Tori, and then she like dodges it, right?
Yeah.
While he and Robbie are fighting.
Yeah, I remember that.
That's the kick that's like never been done on film before. It's amazing.
It's extraordinary, dude. Like, it's literally like the way he does his kicks. It's like you're watching an anime, dude. It's so insane. Like on the level and just
the lines are so clean. Like there's
oh my
such like
god,
incredibly clean lines. Like, oh, he's so good.
It's just impeccable,
He's
right?
so good.
Yeah, 100%. And with that brawl, man, oh my god, so much is going on. There's so many. I mean, this is pretty much all the beats come in with all the ones that the Don and Ken have like planned out for you guys. But like, oh my god, like obviously the matchup with Axel and Robbie, he throws Robbie into you guys. Kwon gets a cheap shot. Does Yoon get a cheap shot as well? I'm just trying to remember. Yeah. He also adds into that. I'm like, okay.
No.
This is like
that's the one thing about Yoon is like I always
that.
was like, listen, if my team is going right, if these are my friends, and actually at this point in the tournament, right, like Kwon and I, like we started out a little rougher, right? There's a little bit more attitude between us, a little more tension, and as the episodes go on, that tension kind of disappears because we become real friends, real comrades, right? But that's the one place where I was like, man, like Yoon is like he kind of carries that like spirit of respect. And so when he's like, oh, we're going in, I guess we're going in, you know, like, yeah, I don't know. Like Yoon has changed a lot from part 1 to part 2, basically under Chris's teachings. He's a different guy.
Different breed.
And we'll see how he changes from here on out. But yeah, man, no, it's Brandon gets that cheap shot. Kwon gets that cheap shot. And that's what kicks off the whole brawl. Yeah. Crazy.
Do you think Kwon is to blame for that, or do you think it was Axel's fault because he threw Robbie into you guys? So I was saying this to Brandon, like, and then I asked Patrick this: who is really responsible for that? and obviously what proceeds after is another thing. But who would you say is to blame?
Now I kind of want the fans to like just argue over this, be like,
Yes,
who's
they
at
will.
fault? And I, you know, you could say like any one of those three is the inciting incident. It is the moment, right? But if you want Daniel Kim's two takes, one take, this Kwon, you know, you're like, listen, your competitor falls off the mat, you're like, okay, like just put him on there, you know.
Screw this guy,
But man went, you know what I'm gonna do? Boof, and you're like, whoa, dude, that's great, unnecessary, unnecessary,
100%.
homie. But it could have been anybody. I mean, you know, Axel was doing this to Robbie, right, and pushes him, and they're talking smack, so
100%. I think that was definitely one of the craziest moments in, like, just that little moment in the tournament. We've never seen anything happen like that. We've seen disqualifications, you know, in All Valleys. We've seen what happened in 84, but like nothing on this level where like someone gets like a cheap shot that's just standing watching the fight. Like that's
not just that, where a student dies.
And then like that is another even more insane thing. So to talk about that specifically, when you first read that in the script, how did you react to that? Because I mean, when like you first heard that, I'm sure you were like, damn, they really go, they go all in, they kill him. And also it's
I
a
remember
byproduct
where
of all
we were. I remember where we were when we heard that. Brandon and I actually didn't even have script in hand. It was our first day on set. It was while we were in Korea. It was freezing cold. And we were, you know, in the middle of the work, and John, Josh, and Hayden come up to us and they're like, okay, so here's the story. You're gonna die. It's Brandon. And I remember Brandon, like they would give me pieces of the story and they give Brandon pieces of the story, and the two of us would start like connecting, be like, dude, how does the story fit? Like we'd be exchanging, like, did they tell you this? No, they didn't tell me that. Wait, where did he leave off of? And so we like pieced it together in between shots, and we're like, oh my God, man, like you're gonna have this like iconic, but also like the single most like tragic event in Cobra Kai, like the Miyagi verse, like history. Like we've never seen anything like this on camera happening in the moment. It's not a flashback. It's not like a rumor. It happens on the day, in the moment, with characters we know and we love. And, you know, I think for me, it was like imagining that and how impactful that was going to be. And then on the day, seeing Ralph like come up next to this boy who's been killed. And then me as his teammate getting to stand and see him. It was both like really celebratory because we got to say, you know, like goodbye to Brandon and Kwon and that amazing work that he'd done for us as friends. But it was also like deeply sad because we were like, oh my God, we're ending shooting. Like we're going to be done here in Atlanta. We're going to say goodbye to this story and this cast that we've all become friends. And so there was like a real level of tragedy for even as short as it was. It's like, dude, as a story moment, as a personal moment, I was like, man, that thing was like, what an incredible moment for fans, for us. And it was I was crying. I'm a big old softie. I was crying. So
Brandon was telling me about that day, like how it was pretty funny in the sense of not the character dying, of course, but
for him.
But the fact, like he said he had this moment to like, I think Jacob started going speech, and like everybody sort of like was taking photos with him on the floor, like getting their moments, because it's like something you've never seen in the show, but like
with just like blood all over, and
just like
the knife sticking out of him.
Yeah, because Brian was telling me like, because obviously he had to play dead on screen, so like he said there was times where he generally felt like he was dead, like legit. He had to stay like so still, and that must be so like uncomfortable to do, right? And
that's so funny.
It is insane.
Like, is this what it's like? He's just having like
is this what
an
it's
existential
like?
crisis while everyone is like camera rolling and action. That's awesome. That's hilarious.
But this is the thing I'm really curious to see, and I hope we see that addressed in part 3. Is like, you know, how does this affect, you know, Sensei Kim as a sensei? Like she feels that responsibility that one of my students has died, but again, you could also, this whole thing with the brawl is pretty much Kreese's fault. He brought Jung Do to his intention was to go and pretty much kill Silver, but this is that when I saw that knife fall, I was like, oh my god, no, this is someone's dying. Like, yeah. And then
Yeah.
I want to ask you this as well. In the moment, obviously, like Kwon, he's so annoyed with Axel. He wants to be the best there, right? And with the
Yeah.
way Kwon is, he doesn't want anyone beating him, being better than him, or having a better chance of winning the tournament. If
Yeah.
Yoon was in that same moment and he saw Jung Do and he was getting, like kicked into a camera and he was on rage and fury, against Axel, do you think Yoon would have done the same thing? Or the thing with Yoon, it's a little bit different. Like he might have gone, there's a knife there, but would he have kicked it away? Or would that have been like him going, okay, we need to stop this
Oh
right now?
man, that's a really good question. I actually haven't thought about that. I don't know. Just in the moment, I think knowing Yoon, that's for him. That's a step too
Too
far.
far,
You
yeah.
know, like he plays dirty, but like to kill somebody, that's not Yoon. All I'll say is like there's a reason why Kreese ended up picking Kwon as his ultimate weapon
Yeah.
instead of Yoon. And I think the difference between Kwon and Yoon, there's obviously a skill gap, a little bit of a skill gap, but I think the main thing is like Kwon has that killer instinct, that anger, that rage that Kreese wanted to direct. But with a knife in hand, I think it's a little more than what Kreese expected. And certainly he didn't
Mm.
expect his star student to become his like first victim. So I'm super excited to see where part 3 might go and what happens with Cobra Kai from there on out. I think Kreese has a lot to grapple with. Kim Ta-eun has a lot to grapple with. And I,
Mm.
as Yoon, have a lot to grapple with. So yeah, it's a pretty crazy moment to leave the story on.
Right.
And definitely the biggest cliffhanger we've had so far.
I 100% agree. Like that in itself is, it felt like a Cobra Kai's Endgame. Like it was such a, again, like we've seen all the dangers the kids have gone through, but to see that happen with Kwon, and again, like I was speaking to Brandon about that, all the
Yeah.
love his character's been getting, like it's more bittersweet now in that
Yeah.
way. And then for
Yeah.
you guys as well, like yourself,
It's so
like
well deserved.
it's it's definitely one of those moments you're never gonna forget. Like it's as impactful as like
Mhm.
the OG films. It's literally like got that legacy now, and I think
Yeah.
it will definitely be interesting how it's going to affect Kim Daeun with her students like Yoon. How does he feel about martial arts and karate as a whole? Like, because he's a
Yeah.
very honorable guy. You wouldn't expect him to ever consider anything like this is an acceptable thing. Like, going to that length with a knife. But obviously,
Yeah.
no one is actually seeing how it's happened. They just see him being stabbed. So, like, again, like, are they theorizing someone? Like, that's what I'm also curious
But it's
about. Like,
it's also like for me, right, as Yoon, it's like, this guy's my rival. This like more than anybody else, right? What I'm trying to prove is one day like is to get to the level where we're on the same level, him and me, right?
mm,
And then this guy who's my rival, who becomes my friend, right? Who becomes my like compatriot, my partner, right, as a fighting partner. And before I have a chance to really do that, he's gone.
mm,
Like, that's a lot to grapple with. Have a friend,
right.
have a teammate gone, like, it's pretty crazy, you know? So, I'm so stoked to see what happens in part 3
Same.
because there's a lot of these, like, gigantic threads that are now like, "How is this all gonna wrap
Right.
up?" But we can kinda see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think after that moment, I think people will be like, "Oh, wow, this is the final season." Like, I think that's, like, the moment where it all
Mm.
kinda sinks in.
And so for the last question, this might be a tough one, but what would you say is your favorite fight from part 2?
Ooh.
I mean, you filmed quite a few,
Oh
but if you have to pick one.
dude, okay. Okay, so I'll answer this in which favorite fight was my favorite to shoot, and then I'll answer this as what my favorite fight is. So my favorite to shoot is it's really difficult because there's a lot of really fun fights, and
Mm.
oh man, but I do think oh, this is actually a lot harder than I thought. They're all really fun. It was,
Right.
dude, like, I mean, being on this show is a dream, man. It's an absolute dream and an
Mm.
honor. So for me, it's like so hard to choose. I think I really loved shooting the 3v1 fight. I think that's got to come up on top me and Jacob and Johnny and Dallas,
Mm.
just because it was like one that's like Hawk's like lick back, that's his comeback, that's his like him getting to rise and have his moment. But also for me, I was, it was like such a daunting task being like given that fight and being like, whoa, okay, like how do I do this? And the fact that I was able to get through it with the help of Don and Tony and Ken, I was like, that stands out to me as a really huge, and the whole stunt team, especially shout out to my stunt double, David EJ. He is the reason that I'm alive and that I'm good and that I was able to do those fights. He's a great guy. So that one's my favorite that I shot. We have so much hard work and effort and love poured into every fight, but really for me, that was the standout. And then my favorite fight, dude, it's gotta be like Kwon versus Robbie final confrontation in the Miyagi-Do ring. You were talking about blood sport. That ending is blood sport. That was a callback to blood sport. And like seeing that on the day, like they shot them running up and doing that kick like twice, and Brandon's react when he goes poof and lays out.
So well done.
We were all like, when we saw it, like we all knew that was like the trailer shot. We knew it was the money shot. We knew it was the golden moment. And we were like, dude, this is amazing. And that's not even including like the whole lead up to that, through that fight is so amazing, of Kwon fighting through Miguel and all this, so yeah. So that's that Miyagi-Do 609 Miyagi-Do Cobra Kai fight is my favorite full fight. Yeah.
Daniel, thank you for coming on, man. I hope the fans really love part 2. I'm sure they will. Again, for you, thank you for being part of the show. Thank you for everything you brought to it. And yeah, thank you for everything you've done with the show, man. And I can't wait to see what more you do as an actor as well.
Thank you so much. I mean, yeah, Shamoon, like it's so much of the reason that like, we're able to feel as much love as we do is because of people like you, like running content like this and stuff like this. So I'm actually super grateful for you. Thank you for like inviting me. Thanks for bringing me back. To all the fans, like we love you guys so much. We hope you enjoy part 2. Go see it now. It's out.
Yes.
Like, get your eyes on it. Have a fun time. Rewatch part 1. Get with your family, your friends. It's amazing. It's hype. You can find me. I'm Daniel J. Kim at Daniel_J_Kim on Instagram. And yeah, sometimes I try and respond to comments down over there. You guys can find me there and enjoy the rest of the season.
Awesome.